dear friend and courageous warrior, Erin Friday. I really should have gone before Chloe because I've been speaking with Chloe for a few years now, and I have to say that that was the most amazing speech I've ever heard you give. So thank you, and I think it's because she's in a place where she feels comfortable and where she feels loved and where she feels welcome. So I thank the audience for that. Melanie, I have to thank you personally too, and Kelly, of course. So how did I get here? Because I don't want to be here. This is, I had a normal life. I had a really wonderful, full life. I worked for a law firm. I had 2 kids, 2 dogs. I played tennis. I used to work out, threw fabulous parties. And then gender came to our house, and it came by way of the schools. My daughter in 7th grade got her dose of sex ed. And unbeknownst to me, who was a volunteer at the school all the time, I knew all the teachers by name. I went out to lunch with them, even had a few cocktails with them. And they brought in a third party to teach my daughter about sexuality, and the whole last hour, because there were 5 hours of it, the whole last hour was about gender ideology. It was little cartoon pictures of a girl body with an arrow pointing to the head saying boy brain. So they were being taught that you could have a female body and a male brain and vice versa, which is just biologically impossible. It's just unscientific and a lie. That seed was planted in my daughter. All of her friends came home and they said, what gender are you? And each one of them picked something other than white straight girl, because that's not cool and it's not interesting. They picked pansexual. Now, these are 12-year-old girls. Pansexual. Polyamorous was another. And we had lesbian, we had non-binary. That made me start to think about what was being taught in our schools. I was alarmed. I went to the parent class. At the parent class, I was told that if you are not G.I. Joe or Barbie, you're somewhere on the gender spectrum. So I raised my hand, being the Weisenheimer that I am, and I said, oh, so we're all trans. Because there's no Barbie and there's no G.I. Joe. Yeah. And this is what they're teaching our kids. I was given a list of all the different genders, were demi-boy, non-binary, all these nonsense terms. I kept raising my hand. What does this mean? What does this mean? This doesn't make any sense to me. And I was finally told to basically shut up. Not knowing again that I was stepping in it, not knowing that I'm now a transphobe. I was just using my critical brain. The pandemic happened, and then my daughter, who's very much like Chloe, artsy, quirky, not necessarily one of the most popular girls in school. I mean, a cool kid, right? Funky, likes to do art, walk to a different drum. She fell into severe depression. There was no school, there were no friends. She lived in a virtual world, she lived on a computer. And that seed that was planted in her from 7th grade to tell her that she could be born in the wrong body. And by the way, all that sorrow that you feel, all that loneliness can disappear if you just transition. So that's what she believed. So she took on a transgender identity. And I found that out because, she's at home, pandemic, she's going to school on an iPad, and I hear the teachers calling her a male name and using male pronouns. Well, who is that? I asked. I called the school, read them the riot act. How dare you change my daughter's name? The first thing I gave my daughter was my body, and the second thing I gave her was her name. And you took it. And you took it and you've never met her, because she's never set foot into your school. And I queried them, what do you know of my daughter? What do you know? Nothing. Is she fat, skinny, tall? What's her favorite ice cream? Couldn't answer one of those questions, but they changed her name. And then they said, we need to be a safe space. Me, again, being a little bit of a wise ass, said, oh, well, what's safe? Define it for me. They couldn't. But by extension, I was unsafe because Child Protective Services showed up at my house, followed by the police. Luckily, I do have the lawyer card, so I was able to survive that. And that's how I got into the gender world. My daughter sunk into the most horrifying deep depression where she wasn't brushing her teeth, she wasn't getting out of bed, she wasn't eating. And this is all because she was told that she was wrong. You were born wrong, child. So when we talk about a hateful movement, I can't think of a more hateful movement than telling a child they are wrong. And then add to it, your mom doesn't love you, was the added pressure, right? Because mom's not accepting you as a boy. And so my daughter started to call me by my first name. It was a way to separate us. She was told by the people online to run away, emancipate. And she did run away. And I couldn't even call the police because I was already on their radar as a bad mother. So I drove around the neighborhood. I stood on the railroad tracks because there's a midnight train just to make sure that she wasn't there. And this is what they do to the parents. Every doctor, like what happened to Chloe, told me to transition my child. Every single one. I couldn't find a therapist or a psychologist who was interested in understanding the why. They all just told me to celebrate my new son and to forget about the 13 years that I had with her, that I raised her, where she wore nothing but pink, nothing but sparkles. I'm a tomboy. I had a hard time. I had to go to high teas.
Sorry, that was funny.
Yeah, and I actually set a timer in the American Girl doll store because I was like, I have to stay longer, okay, I have to do this. And once I got my daughter stable, and I'm one of the lucky ones, because I pushed back and I followed my maternal gut, which told me, don't believe the lies, take the hate, and love her back, love her more. She's in there, she's still there, you can find her, you can get her, you can take the phone away, which I did, change schools, everything. I mean, my whole life became her. And so she came out the other side, and I then took all my sorrow and I turned it into anger. And you can hear the anger in my voice, and it hasn't left for now a couple of years. I took that anger and I turned it into action. Because there was no one who would help us. There wasn't a lawmaker in Sacramento, Republican or Democrat, who would help us. Chloe would come up and testify with me, and they would whisper and sit there in silence. We didn't want their thank you. We wanted their action. We wanted them to do something to help save our kids. And it's not just the kids, it's vulnerable adults too. A lot of autistic over 18-year-olds are doing this to their bodies. And so I wrote 8 bills, which is kind of unheard of. You can do a lot when you're angry. It's amazing. The energy I have. 2 of those bills got picked up, which is, again, an amazing feat for somebody who was never into politics. And I'm a construction law attorney, again, tomboy. But that wasn't enough because, they killed our one bill before it had a hearing. And so we took the next step, which is the ballot initiative, because no one is listening to us, and we need to be the people to make the change, and that's where the ballot initiative has power. And boy, is this hard. but we can do it. There are 4 amazing things that this ballot initiative will do. First and foremost, it's going to define female and male in biological terms.
Yes.
I mean, the fact that we have to... Can you believe we have to do that? I mean, that's just insane. It's just crazy. It's going to get all the males out of girls' bathrooms and sports and changing rooms. Again, logic. And it's going to stop the school secrets. Exactly what happened to me, the deception and lies. It will require schools to involve the parents when their child is suffering from a mental health issue called gender dysphoria. And it will stop teachers from scaffolding their gender identity. Did you know that there are schools in California where they have a trans closet? Yeah, that's right. The kid can go to school in one outfit and change into a different one during the school year, or school day. So a boy can put on a little dress and micro mini or whatever and go through school wearing that and then change back into his regular clothes. So again, mom and dad will never be the wiser. They give out binders so they can compress girls' breasts. They give out trans tape so boys can flatten their frontal area. The trans tape also will eventually sterilize these boys. Right? We know this. And the trans tape can be used for girls also. So this is happening in our public schools. We're all paying for this. Each one of you, we're all contributors. In 2020, we spent $94 million in harming children through our taxes, Medi-Cal. This is how much money we spent on transitioning children in our state. There's huge money in this. The other side is really, really well funded, like to the tune of multitude of millions.
It's always follow the money.
It's always follow the money. Each trans-identified child is worth $1 million to the medical community. And then there's more money to be made, and I'll talk about that in a second. But again, the ballot initiative will stop all gender interventions, puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and surgeries. This is a money-making machine. Right now in the state of California, they are building housing for children like my child was, where they can take our children at the age of 12, and then they can put them in the Rainbow House. And this is where the children of gender-confused kids will live, and how mom and dad get the child back, we don't know. Because right now I work with about 3,000 parents. Any parent who is in a custody battle for their trans-identified child, if they don't support the identity, they don't get custody of the child. We already have, California is so important. And I'm sorry to say, but we're the ugly stepchild. I have been doing this for 4 years, tirelessly, like Kelly said, no pay, spending money, my own money, not working anymore. And there's big groups out there, and they've got deep pockets, and they too give me pats on the back. And because they think we're a lost cause here. And gosh darn it, we're not. And worse than that, we are a dandelion. California is the root of the transgender movement. And we keep growing, and we pass our seeds across the rest of the nation. And unless we pull the dandelion out by the roots here in California, it never ends. Right now there are 23 states with bans against gender interventions on kids. 23, and that's amazing. They're all the conservative states, and that's great. But here's the thing. Any of those kids in those 23 states can run away to California, and we take them, and we transition. and the parents don't get them back. And here's the full circle. And then those kids are sex trafficked. So it's all tied together. I know it sounds a little tin-hattish, but it's all tied together. California also, we passed a bill last year that allows those doctors who are in Florida are not supposed to be removing girls' healthy breasts anymore. If they continue doing that in Florida and then they get caught, guess what they can do? Get on an airplane to California and we'll hide them. We'll take them and they will not be prosecuted. So California is the trans sanctuary of really the world. We also passed another bill last year with our tax dollars are going to a fund, our tax dollars, so that we can advertise into those red states about coming to California to get your trans interventions. So no one is safe in this country until we kill it in California. And the only way we have a chance of doing that is the ballot initiative. We need to collect 550,000 ballot signatures by April 18th to be on the 2024 ballot. That is an undertaking. No one has ever done it with grassroots only. Despite the fact that we have teams, and we have a Korean group that they just printed out 80,000 21 signature ballots. They have their own offices set up to collect signatures. So we have the will. We need to have the will, and we need everyone contributing money to this. It all goes back into the movement and collecting signatures. It's actually not that hard. As you know, I'm a Democrat. I actually collect a lot of Democrats' signatures. My biggest donors right now are Democrats, which is interesting, is it not? But we need to show the country that we mean business here in California. And I'm going to tell you another cool thing. Once we get it on the ballot, which I really hope that we do, once we get it on the ballot, the polling shows that Democrats, Independents, and Republicans will all vote to protect kids. Yes. Our polling's amazing if we get it on the ballot. If we get it on the ballot too, here's another thing. Gavin Newsom will not be president. This will be, all eyes will be on California for the 2024 election. The Democrats will start hearing that regular people have had enough of this garbage, and that'll change. It will actually change the world. That's how important California is. Our little parental notification policy that never got a hearing made it into international news. That's how important California is. So we have to be successful. We just filed a lawsuit. I'm the attorney on the case. So it'll be very fun and interesting against Rob Bonta for his biased title and summary. If we are successful in that, we might get some extra time to collect signatures. But if we get extra time, that's going to push us into 2026, which I really don't want to do. That's 2 more years of kids getting harmed. The story about Freckles is continuing. They are having these LGBTQ, and it's not the LGB, it's the T and the Q clubs now in 3rd grade. And they do it at lunchtime to avoid detection from parents. The schools are the faucet. They are creating these gender dysphoric kids. And so the tail of this is going to be really, really long unless we end it. I mean, these kids in kindergarten now are being read trans books. So I implore you, as much as you can, get the word out about the initiative, collect signatures, donate. You know, I have to hire professional signature gatherers, or we're likely not to be successful, and let's show the world that California has had enough and that we're not all that crazy.
I have a question for you really quick.
Yeah.
When you say you need money, what is that amount? Like, where do you need?
So
that date?
So I have a business plan back there, but I mean, realistically, to guarantee getting on the ballot, we need $3 million. And that will allow us to hire the signature gatherers, and that's really what it goes to. Then once we get on the ballot, all eyes are going to be on California, and then there's going to be a lot of advertising costs, but we expect that the national conservative groups are all going to pounce at that point and join us in this fight. I mean, they're going to throw, the other side is going to throw, 25 million at this, like they did with other initiatives. But money doesn't matter once you get it on the ballot. It's not as important because it's the will of the people then. So right now, our whole goal is to get this on the ballot, and then the world is going to explode. All those parents who were like me, who had no idea that this was happening, and there's still tens of thousands of people who don't know. I'm always shocked. They don't know this is happening, but once it's on the ballot, they're going to know it's happening because the New York Times is going to cover it. All the mainstream media is going to cover it. Right now, the mainstream media doesn't put my name in things because I'm a Democrat and I got my kid out of this and I don't fit the narrative. They're going to have to start hearing from those of us who got our kids out, and there's lots of us like me. So, anybody have any other questions about or anything about the ballot?
So if we take the papers to get signed, tell us what do we do? Where do we go from there? We just start going neighborhoods, start getting signatures.
You could go to so here's some tricks of the trade. So I went to the gun show. I collected 500 signatures in a day. I went to a MAGA rally. I collected 700 signatures. You find these places, you go to your local churches, you can go to mosques because they'll be really receptive. We actually even went to the 49ers game. That was tough. Chloe went. Because people are drinking and partying and they don't really. But we collected signatures there. Whenever there's a family event, you can go to that. There's a lot of Republican events that are going on because really now you want to do it efficiently. So you don't really want to go where there's a lot of long conversations. You want quick signatures because it's all about efficiency. Yeah.
First of all, really good talk. Thank you. 2 questions. Where are you on the 3 million, and where are you on the signature? Do you know?
I don't know. Well, I know that we're getting now 3,000 to 4,000 signatures in a day. Okay, and we need to get about 6. So we're behind. We also got behind because the initiative dropped right before Christmas. So it's a really tough time to start collecting signatures. But we're growing exponentially. I mean, the snowball effect is happening. Will it happen fast enough? I'm hopeful. As far as the money, I mean, we're not in the millions. We are getting, this is the really cool part. In the last 3 weeks, we have now 35 donors from 35 different states. So we are getting $1,000 donations from Maine, Missouri, Florida, New York, because they know, the real people know that this is a national issue and not a California issue.
I have a question. So can you speak to the polling? Who did the polling and what does the polling show in California?
So the polling is interesting. We have 75% polling, and that was Gallup, of parents voters who are against transitioning children. 75%. Then we had, this is interesting too, we had a very left group also do polling. They're called WOLF, Women's Liberation Front. very same-sex attracted type of group, very left. They did polling too, because they're on our side, because they know what a woman is, and they know that it doesn't actually have a male appendage. But they also did polling, and they concentrated in the Bay Area, which is highly liberal, and their polling matched ours. For sports, it's at 64%, but that's underreported too. Again, Wolf did companion polling, and their numbers are even higher. I think they're at 69%. And then the schools across the nation is at 85%, and then we did it for California, and it's at 68%. And again, the Wolf did polling too, and it's around the same numbers. So we have the polling, we just need to get on the ballot. That's what we need.
Do you know how many kids in California have transitioned, roughly?
If you look at the Reuters report, maybe a year ago, that will show you some of the numbers, but no, because they don't want to keep track of any of this. Like even the 94 million that I quoted you, that's only part of the cost. I'm fighting with them right now to get the rest of the numbers. They don't want to give them to me for obvious reasons. So yeah, they don't keep count of that. They don't track how many people have detransitioned. You know, they do this work and move on. Anyone else have any questions? So I want to thank everyone for coming. I want to ask you, and thank you for your generous donation to come today. I really appreciate it. And if you want the business plan and better understand our financial needs, and I'm going to end this with something else too that is also a problem. People are afraid. People are afraid to attach their names to this. I've been doing this for 4 years. I've been doxxed. I'm on the Southern Poverty Law 8 list. I just got on a couple months ago. I was wondering what took so long. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid when your morals are right. Okay, nothing has happened to me. I've had Antifa in my face alone. They are more afraid of me than I am afraid of them. We are a larger number of society than they are. They want us to be afraid. Proudly support Protect Kids California. Proudly support it. Because you're in the right. Who can ever say that saving a child is wrong? So be proud. Thank you so much.